Good evening and welcome to In Focus, where we discuss pressing global issues that are shaping the world today. Amid escalating tensions in the Middle East, our first topic will be Israel's intensified strikes on Lebanon, and they coincide with the concerns over Iranian threats. Also, the US 2024 elections, and they're seeing a shift among white female voters, particularly among younger demographics. And in the Russian-Ukraine conflict, Russia has claimed victories in the east while cautioning the West against further support for Ukraine. Let's start with the escalating tensions in the Middle East as Israel intensifies its strikes on Lebanon. This surge comes as the region anticipates Israel's possible response to Iranian ballistic attacks, which may involve targeting Iranian nuclear facilities.
وضع شيء مرعب شيء بخوف.
The New York Times reports that Israel is not expected to retaliate against Iranian nuclear sites following Tehran's ballistic missile attack last week. According to unnamed officials, Israel is likely to target military bases, intelligence facilities, or leadership figures instead, with potential future responses to the nuclear program contingent on Iran's actions. Former and current senior Israeli officials have raised doubts about Israel's ability to inflict significant damage on Iran's nuclear program. The paper notes that Israeli forces have been planning strikes on these facilities for 22 years, but a direct attack in the next round of retaliation seems unlikely, especially without American support. Additionally, President Joe Biden from the United States has cautioned Israel against targeting nuclear or energy sites. The Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, made it clear to Israeli counterpart Yoav Gallant that the United States wants Israel to avoid retaliatory actions that could escalate tensions with Iran. Now to discuss this with us from Lebanon, from Beirut, Ahmed Ez Eldin, who is a political writer and analyst. Welcome to the program. I want to begin by asking you how things are today and over the last 24 hours in Beirut, and how have the last week or two been for you?
ممكن إعادة السؤال لأنه ما سمعت صوت الاستوديو.
كيف كان الأسبوع الأخير بالنسبة إليك؟
I'll ask you again. I just wanted to ask you the situation in Beirut. How has it been for you over these past few weeks, and what's the situation in Beirut at the moment today?
They are destructive airstrikes. Hence, this week was the harshest week that Lebanon has had to go through in this year. Since the start of war in Gaza, the escalation is still continuous, and it's expected to grow further in the upcoming hours.
الضفة الغربية، فضلا عن العدوان الإسرائيلي على لبنان الشقيق والتصعيد الذي ترتب عليه. تناولنا أيضا في مباحثاتنا خطورة التصعيد الراهن في المنطقة وتداعيات الحرب الإسرائيلية الغاشمة على المواطن اللبناني
against the Lebanese citizen and the institutions of the state. We also reviewed the efforts of Egypt and Jordan in terms of intensifying their international communication with the parties of conflict or the regional international powers that are effective to prevent an inclusive regional war.
الكارثي أيضا إلى تضامن مصر والأردن
We also discussed the full solidarity of Egypt and Jordan with the brotherly state of Lebanon in the light of what's Lebanon going through, especially this critical situation that affects the sovereignty of Lebanon on the territories due to the Israeli continuous aggression against the Lebanese city and the aggression against the Lebanese people that led to the death and injury of many innocent civilians, including women and children. Together, we stressed on the paramount importance of stopping this Israeli aggression immediately, in addition to making enough room for political settlement by implementing UN Security Council Resolution number 1701 fully without any selection. Lebanon accepted this, and they also, Lebanon, expressed their readiness to implement this resolution. We also had similar vision regarding the importance of empowering and supporting the Lebanese institution of state and maintaining role in the framework of resolution of the Lebanese national resolution. It's important to continue our Arab efforts to stop the ceasefire in Gaza and the hostile aggression by Israel against the Strip, in addition to the aggression against the Palestinians in West Bank. It's important to urge the international community to not stop with the condemn in the light of
Now it's American election fever time, isn't it? And now we delve into the shifting landscape of white women voters as the 2024 United States elections approach. Historically a stronghold for the Republican Party, this demographic shows signs of change, particularly among younger voters. Will Kamala Harris be able to sway their support and get them to vote for the Democrats instead of sticking to their GOP loyalties?
build what I call an opportunity economy.
We will make America great.
We're ready to fight for it. As one people, we are moving forward.
We will make America safe again.
The Guardian has tackled a crucial demographic question about how white American women feel about the US election. So historically, as I was saying, white women have leaned Republican. However, significant changes are seemingly underway. Recent polls indicate a shift, especially among younger white women, that increasingly lean left. According to Melissa Deckman, the CEO of the Public Religion Research Institute, enthusiasm for Harris's candidacy could influence younger voters to break from traditional GOP support. GOP, of course, the Grand Old Party, nickname for the Republicans. Recent polling shows that white women slightly prefer Harris over Trump, 42% to 40%, while the 8% of undecided voters could tip the scales. While many black and Hispanic women strongly support Harris, political analysts suggest that white women may not entirely abandon the GOP. They still hold significant sways in states like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan, where moderate white women are nearly split on their support. Polling reveals that these women prioritize economic issues but trust Harris more on democracy and reproduction rights. And to discuss this with us from Washington, Dan Rene is with us. He's a political analyst. Welcome, Mr. Rene. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
Absolutely. You're doing great. Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity today.
Okay, no worries. Thank you. It's really nice to have you here. So what do you think about this slight change and white women supposedly moving across to the Democrats? What do you make of that?
You know, I think that there's a lot of folks that are switching around these days when it comes to who they're going to be supporting, and you know, as much as I hate to say it, there's still a lot of uncertainty about how this election is going to unfold. You know, there are some voters out there, especially when it comes to the female voters, that care mostly about the pro-life versus pro-choice argument. But, you know, what's funny about that is that there are a lot of women who are still pro-life, and that I don't see them actually ever going to the Democrat Party. So there is that pro-life side of things that will really stay with the Republicans as we continue to go forward. And I really think that the women vote is much more than just a one-issue vote. You know, these are women who are concerned about their safety. They're concerned about the economy. They're concerned about crime. They're concerned about so many other things other than these single issues. And they're looking for a candidate that can represent all of these interests and all of these concerns, and not necessarily just be a single issue voter and not fall for some of the scare tactics that the Democrats are putting out there these days.
Do you think Kamala Harris is an attractive candidate for these kind of voters?
Well, she makes it sound like she is when she's talking about the pro-life versus pro-choice issue and the whole women's rights issue. And, you know, Trump has a pretty good explanation when it comes to that this is an issue that the states now get to decide, and that they're not necessarily taking any rights from women away at all. And so in politics, there's an expression, if you're explaining, you're losing. And while Kamala Harris definitely has the edge when it comes to the buzzwords or the zingers in the debates on that particular issue, when you look at it from a holistic approach, Trump definitely comes out ahead on that too, because women are much more concerned, again, about their financial well-being, about the opportunity to have a job, about education opportunities for their children. I mean, this is a situation where, you know, we've got men playing in women's sports. I mean, there's, you know, women don't want their daughters to have physical males competing against them in these sorts of things. So I think that the full weight of the argument, when it's considered outside of a single issue, will go towards Trump every time. So this is a minor, I think, exodus, if you will, and it's probably something that's going to boomerang right back when people think about it.
Well, Mr. Rennie, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have to go live to a press conference in just a moment, but thank you so much for being on the program. It's much appreciated. So now we cross back live to the press conference taking place right now.
انعكس ذلك إيجابا على البلدين الشقيقين.
The reflection on both brotherly states, our stances regarding the regional issues, including on top of them, the Palestinian cause. We have the similar stance with similar goals. Our red lines, it's similar to the Egyptian red lines. When it comes to Gaza, we fully realize that Egypt is the most affected country by this crisis. So everything that is taken by Egypt, Jordan supports it. We appreciate Egypt's clear stances in supporting the Jordanian stances regarding what's taking place in the occupied West Bank, occupied Jerusalem, and the Christian and Muslim holy places in Jerusalem. After a year in war in Gaza, we find a regional escalation that is very dangerous. Both Jordan and Egypt warned from the continuous aggression against Gaza, and it will lead to a regional escalation. We see a dangerous Israeli escalation. It's another war in West Bank. It targets the Palestinian existence in West Bank. It destroys all the institutions of the Palestinian Authority of Palestine. It also attacks the holy places. From here, we are warning that the situation in West Bank is boiling, and if it explodes, the escalation will be further dangerous that we see now. The situation in Lebanon gets more dangerous with the continuous Israeli aggression against Lebanon. Israel also refuses what the alliances of it ask for, including the United States and France, when it comes to the ceasefire for 21 days, during which the resolution 1701 will be discussed towards an inclusive settlement. The question is, what does the international community wait for until it moves in an effective way in order to protect the international law, the international humanitarian law, and to protect these innocents who are being killed on a daily basis in Gaza, West Bank, and Lebanon, to protect the credibility of UN Charter, to protect the region from a regional war that will destroy the whole region with effects that will influence the whole world. The effects will not be limited in the Middle East because the whole world is interlapping with each other. After a year of destruction in Gaza and escalation in West Bank, this year took the region towards an inclusive regional war. We are continuous in our work together to end the Israeli aggression on these three fronts, either in Gaza, West Bank, and in Lebanon. We will try to prevent a regional escalation that will lead to a regional war that will affect the whole world. I also briefed to the dear brother the outputs of the visit to Lebanon yesterday under the directives of His Royal Highness the King, His Majesty the King. We have the similar situation. The priority is to stop the Israeli aggression against Lebanon. Afterwards, the implementation of the initiative announced by the Prime Minister of Lebanon, Najib Mikati, to implement resolution number 1701 completely. This is the priority now, because this will allow us to move forward towards maintaining the stability and preventing the regional escalation. The question that the whole world should face, frankly, is Lebanon say that they are ready to implement resolution 1701, which fixates the stability in Lebanon and fulfills all the requirements and the demands to avoid further deterioration. So Lebanon is adhered to resolution 1701. So what does Israel wait for? More than 1,200,000 Lebanese citizens were displaced inside Lebanon, and some of them also went to Syria. The whole world should strictly face this question. The whole world should press to reach a ceasefire in Lebanon immediately and to start implement resolution 1701. As His Excellency said, we need to support the national resolution of Lebanon to reactivate and empower all the institutions by electing a new president for the republic As His Excellency confirmed, as I was in Lebanon yesterday, we support the Lebanese decision. We do not interfere in the Lebanese internal affairs, but we support what the Lebanese agree on. I think electing a president for Lebanon will be in the great interest of the state because it will enhance the state's ability to deal with challenges. Another point is that there is a dire need for humanitarian aid in Lebanon. The number of the displaced people is now 1,200,000. Lebanon needs support in order to provide enough aid that fulfill all the demands of the Lebanese citizens. We condemn the Israeli aggression against Lebanon. We condemn striking the Lebanese capital. We condemn the killing of the Lebanese citizens. In order to conclude, the region faces a real danger, which is moving towards a regional war. As an Arab group, we proposed several times to cease fire, to stop the wars, to come up with a plan to achieve the just comprehensive peace.
That was Egypt and Jordan's foreign ministers giving a press conference reiterating calls for a ceasefire and asking for the implementation of Resolution 1701 as well. Well, back to In Focus, our program right now. And in the Russian-Ukrainian war, Russia is still moving forward, achieving more victories in the east while warning the West of repercussions of supporting Ukraine in targeting deep into Russia. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stressed in an interview with Newsweek magazine that allowing Ukraine to use weapons supplied by Western countries to launch strikes deep into Russia is like playing with fire and could lead to dire consequences. During the interview, Lavrov revealed that Russia will defend its interests, especially in matters of national security, regardless of who will assume the presidency of the United States of America. That comes as Russian forces entered the outskirts of the city of Turetsk, located on the battlefront in eastern Ukraine. Less than a week after the fall of the nearby strategic town of Volodar, Turetsk is one of the pillars of the fortifications of the Kyiv area, and seizing it brings Russia closer to controlling the Donbas region. To shed some light on this situation, we are joined from Kyiv by Oleksiy Melnik, former Deputy Defense Minister of Ukraine. Welcome to the program. What do you make?
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for being here. What do you make of the new Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte's comments that his goal is to ensure Ukraine's victory?
The problem is that so far we don't see any kind of consensus of what Ukraine's victory mean for our partners, because for Ukraine it's quite clear that Ukraine should re-establish its territorial integrity in 1991 international borders. But our partners usually talk about supporting Ukraine and not allowing Russia to win, but at the same time they are afraid that this kind of Ukrainian model of victory is equal to Russia's military defeat, and this is what they are still afraid of.
And Kamala Harris, who's running, of course, for president of the United States, said in some statements recently that Ukraine's involvement in any talks with Russia is paramount and a necessity. How important is it for Ukraine, do you think, for Kamala Harris to be in the White House after the election in November?
We can't do anything with the American elections. It's up to the American people who is going to be the next president of the United States. But we do not prefer any particular candidate, since we already know what we should expect from Donald Trump. He is unpredictable, but this is something that we can predict, his unpredictability. As for Kamala Harris, most probably she will follow the same course of the President Biden's administration, but maybe she will make some stronger decisions. So we are trying to be prepared for any kind of scenarios.
I mentioned before that Russia was close to controlling the whole Donbass region. How do you assess the current situation?
I would say it's premature to say that Russia is close to control, because even with this significant amount of territory occupied during this year, which is almost 700 square kilometers, it's still only a bit more than half of Donetsk region. And if you take into account the number of human casualties, of losses of Russia's weapons, and the speed of Russia's advance, it would take probably years for Russia to capture even the territory of Donbass region. And Ukrainian tactics currently, and probably strategy, is to exhaust Russian fighting capabilities to the biggest extent possible. So it looks like Russia has tactical gains, but I would be very careful to make it equal to Russia's strategic success.
Lavrov has been warning the West against support for Ukraine when it comes into the incursions into Russia. How do you view his warnings?
No surprise. Russian leadership is trying to draw these so-called red lines, and now after the Kursk operation, when Ukrainian forces occupied a significant part of internationally recognized Russian territory, what did we see? We saw that for Mr. Putin, occupying its neighboring countries, a country is more important than protecting their own citizens, than protecting their own territories. And even according to Russian legislation, Putin was supposed to declare a state of war, but instead he declared just anti-terror operation in a way to declare that Ukrainians are doing some kind of terrorist attacks. So this is absolutely a non-adequate response to the military threat.
Deputy Defense Minister of Ukraine, former Deputy Defense Minister of Ukraine, Oleksiy Melnik, thank you very much for joining us on the program tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of In Focus. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching.